Our esteemed guests and CFA Society members is respected Chairperson of SECP, Ms. Sadia Khan, Deputy Commission, Mr. Malcolm Dawson of British High Deputy Commission, Ms. Olivia Campbell, Deputy Director Trade, British Deputy High Commission, President CFA Society Pakistan, Mr. Abdul Rahman Waraich, CEO of English Biscuit Manufacturers, Dr. Zila Munir, CEO of Infrazaman Pakistan, Ms. Maheen Rahman, CEO and Chairman of Lucky Electric Power Limited, Mr. Rohail Mohammed, Head of Treasury and Fixed Income, Sindh Bank, Ms. Rukhsana Narejo. A hearty welcome to all. We thank you for joining us today in the dialogue session of Path Empowerment Series. We've gathered here today to witness a panel discussion on entrepreneurship and mentoring opportunities for women in Pakistan. This event is in collaboration with British Deputy High Commission and Hum TV. I'd like to request one of the directors of CFA Society Pakistan, Ms. Rukhsana Narejo, who is an MBA and CFA charter holder. Rukhsana joined Sindh Bank in June 2011. She has about 18 years of experience in banking and capital markets. Prior to joining Sindh Bank, she was associated with the Asian Development Bank, National Fullerton Asset Management Company, BMA Asset Management Company, Crescent Capital Management Limited, and Standard Chartered Bank. I would request Ms. Rukhsana to come on stage and share her views with us.
Audience, speakers, thank you so much for being here today and showing the commitment to the aim of gender diversity, because at the end, when we ensure gender diversity, we'll be gender diverse nation and we'll be able to prosper and progress. Society Pakistan was launched last year in April 2021, and the first program of the series was financial inclusion. While we were conducting the program, we came across very interesting data and numbers. We got to know that just 18% of women of Pakistan hold the account. Just imagine, if just 18% women hold the account, how can we ensure the inclusion and prosperity? But holding the account becomes the second part. The first part to ensure the inclusion is the prosperity and progress and independence. Now that comes through employment and opportunity. Because when we were conducting the inclusion program, we came to realization that in order to make sure inclusion, we need to do more work on that. We need to work on the sessions like entrepreneurship, mentorship, maybe IT, in order to highlight the potential that where the women of Pakistan can work and progress. So we thought about mentorship and entrepreneurship, where we are today to discuss the opportunities in this field. When we talk about the entrepreneurship and mentorship, now we need to realize that it becomes the question of the job market and the business initiatives. How many women are employed in the financial sector and the manufacturing sector? On the top of your mind, just 13% women are employed by the banking industry. The number can be somewhere equal at the manufacturing side. And on the manufacturing side, obviously, most of the women are employed towards the lower level of the job where there's no value addition. We are talking about progress. We are talking about gender diversity. That all involves value addition. That all involves thinking out of the box solution. And where are those solutions possible? Those solutions are possible on the middle management, top management, and the board level. The glass ceiling concept has been there for quite a few years right now, but glass ceiling just became a word with one woman on the board. Pakistan have 49% women and 51% men. Just one board member wouldn't make a game? I don't think so. We need to have equal opportunities everywhere. That becomes financial sector, that becomes entrepreneurship activities. The 60% of our population is below the age of 25, and we are passing through transformation age. That transformation involves working in the textile industry innovation in the textile industry, innovation in the IT sector. Today, we need to talk about how and what kind of reforms need to be brought so that women can equally participate into the sector, which are the sector of the future. That is the reason we are all gathered here today, and we have awesome speakers and chief guests who will, along with us, discuss all these possibilities and how to ensure that as a nation, we are a gender diverse nation and we are prospering together. Thank you.
I would now humbly invite Deputy Head of Mission of British Deputy High Commission, Mr. Martin Dawson, to please come up on the stage and share his thoughts with us. Thank you.
High Commission. I'm actually not going to say much at all, you'll be relieved to hear, but over the last month, particularly around the focus of women's empowerment, financial inclusion, gender diversity, in relation to International Women's Day, I've spoken enough possibly, and I've been to many fine events with many of you over the last few weeks. But I thought it more appropriate than rather you listen to somebody like me, you should have a proper speaker who's someone who's well prepared. And I'm very grateful that my colleague accepted my invitation to replace me this evening as sort of the speaker on behalf of the UK government. So I'm going to hand over now. She's also going to be the panellist later, so you'll hear from her again, just to say a few opening words. So will you please put your hands together for our Deputy Trade Director in Pakistan, Ms. Olivia Campbell. Olivia, over to you. Thank you.
I'm glad I didn't wear my heels tonight. I think I would tower far above the microphone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to today's Path Empowerment series, looking at entrepreneurship and mentorship opportunities. I am delighted to be here. So I'm looking forward to the Q&A later. I think we have a hugely interesting panel. I'm looking forward to getting into some of the questions that we're going to be talking about later on today. We're going to be talking about two things, entrepreneurship and mentorship. I come across very few, surprisingly few, entrepreneurs in my line of work. For the most part, I am here to look at bilateral trade between our two countries. That involves a lot of meetings with the Ministry of Commerce. So not a lot of entrepreneurs in the civil service there, but that doesn't mean I don't meet them. And the women that I do meet are inspiring and wonderful women. And I would like to just talk about one in particular who has been a really good role model, I think, what it is to be a very good entrepreneur in this society. And she's called Aruj, and she set up the Guppa app, which is an in-home salon service. And what she has done is support a whole load of women to be able to earn money for themselves. And I'm glad we're talking about access to finance because I think it's something that's really important for women to be able to do. And without access to finance, we will not have tomorrow's entrepreneurs. Aruj has been incredibly supportive of her team. Throughout COVID, she was making sure that they were still getting paid. She was making sure they had access to PPE so that they could continue to deliver their services. But it's not just about being a nice person. In order to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to have skills, you need to have talents, you need to have drive, and you need to have ambition. And she encapsulates all of them. And she is someone who's made me realise just the wonderful world of entrepreneurs and the women that here in Pakistan and the opportunities that they have. However, she is also very lucky in that she does have access to finance. And I saw some stats earlier on today which said that 1% of the female workforce are entrepreneurs, and that compares to 21% of the male workforce, which I think is very surprising. But at the same time, as we're talking about, if you don't have access to that finance, you can have all the dreams and all the vision in all the world, but you will not be able to start, and you will not be able to make that first move. So I would be very interested as the Q&A goes on to see if there's anything that we can do to help support access to finance even further. On mentorship, This is something I could speak about for hours. I only have 4 minutes left, I think, of this particular section before we move to the Q&A. But it's something I'm very passionate about. Both my experiences as a mentor and as a mentee have been hugely instrumental in my career and my life and how I approach my ability to do my job. I strongly believe that a good mentor is someone that will give you the space to develop and to grow. And that is more than just being a good line manager. A line manager can be an excellent mentor, but a really good mentor is someone who will take that step back and help push you to drive yourself further, help to set out what is the next thing that you want to do. A good mentor is someone who can demonstrate good practice. So when I was but a small, young diplomat, the idea that I would prepare briefings and I would give them to either the High Commissioner or a minister is all well and good, and I could understand the briefing and I understand what the topic was. But a good mentor is someone who takes you into the meeting with you, takes you into the meeting with them rather, and shows you what it is to really work in this society, how you can achieve things and really deliver against your business objectives. I think a good mentor is also someone who gives you the space and the ability to put all your learnings into practice. I had one particular mentor who has been instrumental in shaping both who I am, but how I operate today. And she was someone who could see my talent, could see my ambition, and she sat me down and said, right, I'm going to give you opportunities to really push yourself. I'm going to be the person that will send you off into the House of Commons to talk to MPs. I'm going to send you off to Brussels to go and lobby the European Commission on stuff. She was an excellent leader, excellent woman, and I think that every time I put pen to paper and think, how can I help my next mentee? How can I help the people who are coming up behind me? Because I think it is really important for all women here to think about what you can do to bring up the women behind you and to push them on. However, we shall also talk about how it is not just about what women can do for other women. I'm glad to see there's a very diverse audience here, and I'm glad to see, hopefully, that we have many male allies in the room. I know Martin is one, giving me this opportunity to talk and to be able to explain my opinion. It is also on the men in the room to be able to spot the talent and to also be the mentors that we need. Luckily, I have met many men here in Pakistan who fulfill that role model, that role modelling area, and so I look forward to meeting many more in my remaining months here in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honoured to have Ms. Sadia Khan, Commissioner SECP, join us today. Though Ms. Sadia does not need an introduction, as she served as President of Corporate Governance with Master's degree in Economics from both Cambridge and Yale Universities. She started her career at Lehman Brothers in New York. Over the years, she has worked with various international institutions and local regulatory authorities, including the Asian Development Bank, Philippines, and the State Bank of Pakistan. For the past 2 decades, Ms. Sadia has remained a passionate advocate of corporate governance and has served on various boards as an independent director. Her book entitled Corporate Landscape of Pakistan was published by Oxford University Press in 2017. In 2014, the French government conferred on her the prestigious Chevalier d'Ordre National du Mérite, Knight of the National Order of Merit. I would request Ms. Sadia Khan to share her views and shed some light over today's chosen theme. Thank you.
Mr. Martin Dawson, Deputy Head of Mission, Mr. Rahman, President, CFA Society, Ms. Roxana Enrico, Director, CFA Society, distinguished panelists, many of whom are my friends, I'm happy to see here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. This, I think, block under my feet is a good metaphor for what we talk about, equality versus equity. I think my stand on it and Martin's stand on it is equality, my standing on it and after not standing on it is equity. And that's what we're here to talk about, the little bit of support we need to really get that equity conversation going in terms of the networking and the mentoring that women need to succeed in the early phase of their entrepreneur activities. Now, what I'm going to do today, and I'm not going to keep it short, because this is my opportunity to highlight some of the many changes we're trying to introduce, both in terms of trying to enhance gender diversity, trying to enhance entrepreneurial opportunities, and also the mentoring opportunities for women. And many of you may already know of these initiatives, but it's important to spread the word continuously, because there's no point us doing all these initiatives if the awareness is not there and people can't capitalize on everything that we're trying to do. So let me begin by, first of all, thanking the CFA Society for providing this opportunity to speak on a topic very close to my heart. We are well aware of the various international studies that link a nation's progress to the opportunities for economic advancement provided to women. In Pakistan's case, our skewed population growth and the limited job opportunities in relation to the number of job entrants every year makes it imperative that we facilitate women's economic participation through entrepreneurship. Apart from financial resources and market access, appropriate mentorship opportunities for female entrepreneurs are vital for ensuring the realization of their true potential. Now, as we all know, Pakistan ranks relatively low on the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Report Index, and there's a need to support women's economic empowerment through improving entrepreneurship and creating opportunities to advance in leadership positions. So what is the SSCP doing to enhance gender diversity within the corporate sector, i.e. the realm of influence that we can play a part in? Now, Section 154 of the Companies Ordinance 2017 mandates gender diversity on boards of public interest companies through the induction of at least one female director. Point well taken, one is not enough, and before I end my term, I hope there is some movement towards revising this particular target. But besides that, when I returned to the Commission 2 years ago, one of the first studies I commissioned was really to see the regulatory impact of this particular decision. We put a report together which is on our website called Women on Boards, and you'll be happy to note that there is a very positive correlation between greater diversity in decision making and the company's financial performance as recorded through return on assets and return on equity. So those interested and haven't seen the report, please do and see the report. But what we saw in that report was also, while we were inducting more women in decision-making positions, the corporate pipeline was not as robust. And in order to facilitate the development of that pipeline, we put together a series of circulars last year where we asked all the boards of corporate companies to try and come up with a gender policy approved and implemented at the board level. And these would look at all these, the gap analysis within the industry, recruitment, promotion, training, skills development, everything that will help them to retain the female labor force over a longer period of time. It is hoped that greater role for women in decision making will also lead to more focus on women-led initiatives in the startup space when women are in charge of policies regarding financial inclusion, regarding market access through the supply chain. Naturally, the advantages are also felt by the women-led enterprises within the supply chain. However, to specifically address the gaps in our regulatory framework for startups, the SSCP has taken a number of initiatives to encourage entrepreneurship by easing registration processes, facilitating access to finance, as well as providing the necessary hand-holding through mentorship opportunities to help them succeed. Now, first of all, on the registration processes, because that is always a bottleneck, that is something that a lot of people hesitate in coming into the formal sector. And we hope that by facilitating this access, there will be more and more people coming into they're able to access formal channels of finance as well and take advantage of many other facilities as well. Now, first of all, defining startup. I mean, the most recent changes in the Companies Act is actually to define the word startup, which was missing. And by just adding that definition, we will now allow startups to access to track investment, acquire credit, engage in technology-enabled innovative products and services. So that is already happening. Ease of post-incorporation compliance for startups by removing the requirement for filing unaudited financial statements for those with paid-up capital of below 1 million. Few
requirements for single-member companies, those who want to come in as SMCs, no AGMs, no filing of financial statements or Form As. Simplification in further private companies to raise equity through different modes, be it through existing members, through employee stock option schemes, buyback of shares, issue of preference shares. So all this is enabling the smaller companies to rely on different sources of finance. Now, interestingly, we also equalize the business registration process for men and women by abolishing the requirement for women entrepreneurs to provide the name of their husband or fathers during company incorporation. You'll be surprised to know that by just that one change, we were able to jump 25 points in the Women Business and Law Index from 50 to 75 points. But that said, I, in my previous life, also was an entrepreneur, and it irked me no less to try to fill in forms and have people I was hiring co-sign forms with me because my signature was not enough. Many more issues left to be done, but hopefully in coordination with the different ministries, we'll be able to bring in more changes. Now, along with this, CP is acting as a one window for business registration, integration of our online systems for incorporation with other government agencies such as FBR, EOBI, provincial social security, labor departments. It's a one-stop shop. You don't have to go calling on different doors, different departments, different government agencies to fulfill all your paperwork. You can do it just through us as a one-stop shop. We have also launched a bank portal for expeditious opening of bank accounts of newly registered companies, whereby real-time access is provided to banks for the statutory returns of the companies. Previously, you had to give in all these kinds of returns to the banks. Now, the click of the buttons, the banks are able to access these from our portal and able to open these accounts expeditiously. Now, secondly, on the access to finance for the startups, the CP has recently launched the Secured Transaction Registry, which will open up new avenues for small and medium enterprises, particularly in the initial years of operation, to access affordable credit from financial institutions against a variety of movable assets, inventory, receivables, intellectual property, etc. Apart from that, you've also learned about the growth enterprise market, the GEM board, listing platform for SMEs. We already have our first listings. We have also issued guidelines for gender bonds to increase financial inclusion for women. So these are some of the initiatives to try and enhance access to finance, along with many initiatives that the State Bank is also taking. Now, to further tap into the potential of startups and promote a culture of entrepreneurship, the Commission has launched the Regulatory Sandbox that you've probably been reading about. This enables us to conduct limited-scale live tests of innovative products and services under, of course, our oversight. Now, applications have been open for registered companies, unregistered startups, and fintech firms for the last 2 years. We approved 6 solutions in the first cohort, including equity crowdfunding, peer-to-peer debt funding, and robo-advisory. In the second cohort, which is underway now, preferences have been given to security token offerings, blockchain, digital identity, KYC, AI. And in this second cohort, on my insistence, our advertisement also said that women are particularly encouraged to apply, and resultantly, this cohort has considerable presence of women-run businesses that we are currently looking at. Now, I would define this regulatory sandbox initiative as a form of regulatory mentoring, really. The limited scale testing allows startups to test their products and services in a safe environment before they become problems for their long-term sustainability. But apart from this regulatory sandbox, there are other measures that are taken for necessary hand-holding. We have a startup portal accessible through our website, which is an information and collaboration hub. The portal was established to provide guidance and education programs. It connects up to 40 mentors from Pakistan, USA, Singapore, Malaysia, UAE to build capacity of the entrepreneurs and plan. We provide resources, video guides on the processes, incorporation, marketing, branding strategies, and also a lot of awareness. Our innovation office, which handles the sandbox in collaboration with the National Incubation Center, as well as the Women Business Incubation Center run by SMETA, is holding awareness and mentoring sessions for entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of initiative both in terms of our regulatory, the legal infrastructure, plus the access to finance, as well as some of these measures that we put in place, especially target to female entrepreneurs. But apart from this, there are a growing number of initiatives in the private sector field as well. The Women Entrepreneurship Challenge organized by Karandas, initiated while I was on the board in 2017, something I'm very proud of because they've continued to track very good entrepreneurial initiatives from We Inspire, US8 Women Empowerment Program, Sheen's Business, Facebook partnership with Lahore Chamber of Commerce, She Loves Tech, a global platform for international tech companies, investors, the Pakistan. Would you like me to pause? Initiatives. How it is important to provide customized trainings with a robust follow-up mechanism and a long-term mentorship strategy rather than single-issue workshops or trainings. For example, interlacing loans and grants program with not only technical but also non-technical training such as communications, network strengthening, negotiation skills would go a long way in strengthening the ability of our women to achieve their true potential. I think that's one of the areas, in particular networking, where I think there's a lot of opportunities for women to be provided more opportunities. As we know, especially in Karachi, lots of opportunities for men only networking, and we're looking straight at Rohail with his membership of the Sin Club. On a personal note, as Olivia mentioned, I have also initiated and participated in mentoring program myself as a mentor, associated with various alumni networks that I belong to. And it is always a great way to remain connected with the younger generation, and it provides a level of satisfaction that can only come from the opportunity to give back to a community to whom you owe so much. I would strongly urge all of you, in whatever capacity you're in, to play your part in nurturing the entrepreneurial ecosystem so that we can really truly achieve our potential as a nation. Thank you.
Exciting new goals for the organization and her team, Dr. Munir's dynamism, work ethics and personality shines through every aspect of her career. Dr. Ziraf, you're requested to please be on the stage. She has also served as Deputy Head of Communications Europe, advising the UK's embassies in Europe on communications including public diplomacy, international media and stakeholders with particular focus on trade. Mr. Livia, please be on the stage. Thank you. Our third panelist is Ms. Maheen Rahman. Ms. Maheen Rahman has 20 years of experience in investment banking, research and asset management. She has recently been appointed as the CEO at Intrazaman Pakistan, a for-profit Karandas and Infra-Asia joint venture which seeks to provide credit enhancement facilities for infrastructure projects. Previously, she was the Chief Executive of Al-Falah GHP Investment Management. Ms. Maheen, I would request you to come on the stage. The fourth and the last panelist that we have is a gentleman, Mr. Rohail Mohammed. Mr. Rohail is the chairman and CEO of Lucky Electric Power Limited. His career spans over 30 years in general management, business development, strategy, financial planning and people development. Prior to joining Lucky Electric, he was the CEO of Hub Power Holdings Limited, a subsidiary of Hubco and Pakistan's largest IPP. He served on the boards of Engro Corp and various Engro subsidiaries, also as chairman of Engro Vopak and Engro LNG Terminal. In addition, he also has served on the board of Pakistan Institute of Corporate Governance, British Overseas School, KP Energy Board, and acted as chairman for Pakistan Mercantile Exchange Limited. He is a CFA charter holder too. Thank you, Mr. Rohail, for being here. Last but not the least, we need a moderator. Anna narrator would really appreciate if you could be on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sadia, for highlighting so many initiatives which have been taken by SECP, because I think that gives us a road ahead, that those initiatives and these opportunities are there. Women just need to be aware of that and they need to take advantage of that. Thank you so much for highlighting them. Thanks. So, discussion with our entrepreneur, Dr. Zilaf Munir over here, because she is best placed right now in order to give us some answers related to entrepreneurship and what this country needs and what the corporates need to do in order to access all those opportunities. Ma'am, entrepreneurship and entrepreneur activity has been proven to be the key factor behind the prosperity of any country. China and Taiwan are the examples in this regard. Though our country has similar goals in sight and moderate activity has already peaked, however, women who are 49% of Pakistan's population are largely left behind to take advantage of those initiatives. Has EBM Pakistan taken any initiatives which focuses on the training and development of women entrepreneurs in Pakistan?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone, and thank you very much for having me here. I feel happy to witness the change towards working towards a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable environment, whether it is in the private sector or in the public sector. And I was delighted to hear Ms. Sadia's initiatives and the passion with which she spoke about them. And congratulate her for being the first chair at ACCP. It's really, I do feel happy to be witnessing towards making this shift. The case for it, 1% women entrepreneurs in Pakistan, 52%, 51% women population, just 26% in the workforce. The gaps are huge, and yet we know that when women are empowered and are part of the financial inclusion, our GDP will be increasing by 33%. So that's good for everyone. That's good for women, that's good for men, that's good for communities, that's good for the country. So what are the initiatives that EBM as corporate leaders? I would put them down in 3 categories. We spoke about market access, and we also heard about the ability to financially have the possibility to do it, right? So supporting the ecosystem through our value chains, our supply chain. We have examples of working with female-led vendors who are providing us with ingredients, with packaging materials, with marketing materials, pronto. They're companies that we work with. This helps the ecosystem in the supply chain. And this takes conscious effort to be doing that. We have a program we partner with 4 other private 4 other private companies, which includes Reckitt and Shield, John, Santex. It's a program that's called Saaf Sehatmand Services. It was Project Hope, whereby 6,000 women in rural Punjab are supported to develop their own businesses in the retail space over a period of 5 years. Now, if I come to the second thing which we also spoke about is mentorship. I think it is extremely important to have not only the mentorship as organized programs, but having the spirit of mentorship to be able to make the space to for women to, number one, well, the process has to be, we have to focus on all, from the education of girls to the ability to recognize opportunities and then provide the platforms to be able to seize on those opportunities. So mentorship, developing leadership, we partner since 2002, partnering with, say, the School of Leadership for the Young Leadership Programs, which is 40% women. And many of these women are now in impactful community-oriented programs that they are leading. And the third and most important element is, and for mentorship, if I may say, I take it as my responsibility to be mentoring whoever I have the interactions with in my organization. And then it leads to the third point of leadership in women in leadership positions and becoming entrepreneurs in an entrepreneurial organization. So 33% of my leadership is women. They are, so it's, yes, we want to reach the numbers by 2025, that it's the overall figure also is something that we all want to work towards and be proud of, but that in and of itself becomes examples for others. So now that I'm a woman CEO leading the company, and in the past 8 to 10 years of this, we've had 4 times the growth in the revenues now. And when you see women being involved in leadership positions at all levels, being a part of the growth of the company. So when we get the Best Place to Work award year after year, it is in the spirit of inclusivity that we make, that everyone owns the progress. Everyone likes growth. So a progressive, forward-thinking culture leading to growth has numerous, has a big impact to be doing so. So we try to work at every level, and the part that we spoke about, which was the process starts from the girls' education to then mentoring to then this. We, through our CSR and sustainability frameworks, have been investing in women's school. We are looking at how to have a collective movement towards, with our campaign of Padhai Sabke Liye, to be encouraging collective action on that, so the effects are domino. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to point out.
Thank you, Dr. Zila. My next question is to you, sir. Because you have been associated with the companies like HAPCO, Angro, they have been the champion of gender diversity, and they have won several awards. Do you think a mix of technical, digital, and finance training could give women entrepreneurs more confidence to expand their business? And what are the main challenges faced by female entrepreneurs in Pakistan, and how can we overcome them?
Yeah, so as far as training is concerned, I think it's just a tool. So you would probably give the same type of training to men as well. So I don't think that distinguishes encouraging attitude, acceptability, and encouragement within the society, starting with their household and then moving on to external stakeholders like employees, their own employees, their customers, regulators, financiers, etc. So that attitude change is, I think, most important. And I think over the years that has happened. The other thing that can be done, as Zila was in terms of, because one of the most difficult things in business is to sell your output, right? So if companies like English Biscuit says, okay, I'll buy 20% of my packaging materials from women entrepreneurs, that makes a huge difference, because not only do you have a business model, but the acceptability by different stakeholders improves a lot. So I think, and of course, access to finance, which has also happened over time as well. So I think the attitude as well as a sustainable business model is what will make the difference in promoting entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Maheen, you have an amazing team right now, which is very balanced. And when I talk to your team, it is mix of men and women at all levels of your management. What have been the vision behind this balanced team, and what benefits have InfoZamin drawn from the team of diverse people?
Great, thank you. So InfoZamin is a new company. We were formed last year. And, we started with the licensing, we started with the company incorporation, registration, and then we finally got to the point where the team had to be. We were going to be fully focused on merit, and we were going to take all candidates that were applying for the positions through a very rigorous 3-step process in terms of interviews. And it was going to be panel interviews with myself, with other members of the team, with our directors, with our board, and with members of our group. And, we had a huge mix of candidates that came to us. And as they went through the process, it just so happened that the final team that came together was exactly 50% female and 50% male. And I think that's what happens when you take gender out of the equation and you focus just exclusively on merit, that at every level of our organization, we have 50% female and 50% male. And I think that that's a great lesson when it comes to talking about gender diversity. In terms of how this has helped InfoZamin, well, we are still new and we are still growing, but I think the interaction of our team members has only been positive so far. And we have men, women, both on areas that I believe in the past, especially in financial institutions, were very exclusively reserved just for men. So, for example, in the finance department, or the risk department, or the business department, you don't see many women. And here we have an equal representation, just showing that the skill set is out there if you choose to look for it. And it is certainly available for you to take advantage of. So I think that's one key learning that came out of the entire setup process of InfoZamin as a whole. And I think, this kind of also combines the ethos that InfoZamin brings, and why people chose to join InfoZamin was because of the ESG mandate, the impact mandate, the idea that we were going to be working on infrastructure projects which pushed these ideas to our investee companies. So, for example, if we choose to work with, for example, a digital provider of, say, telecom services or fiber services, and we are working with them to help finance their own expansion in that space, we will give them specific KPIs that they must meet with regards to both environment, as in green, with regards to the social impact they intend to have, with regard to the governance structures that they intend to have, and particularly how many women do they plan to not just hire for that project, but also in the communities that they are reaching out to or that they're expanding to, how many women will be positively impacted by that project itself. And we do that simply because we believe that ESG makes economic sense and creates good projects which are viable and then sustainable. And so I think that's the kind of mix we attracted into the company, and that's what we are pushing forward with our funding as well.
Thank you. Olivia, and how huge role it played, and how your bosses were there to guide you through the path when you were moving through your career path. We generally observe that women lag behind in promotions and are hesitant to take the new responsibilities. Do you think right mentorship within organizations can help women to be more effective, or there needs to be more training of acceptance needed for the environment to promote the cause?
Yeah, I think it's interesting question. I think there's a lot that we can do here, and I think it's Ms. Adia who mentioned, it's not just about legislating for a set number of women on board. It's about supporting the talent pipe stream. So how are we going to support those women from the ground up and help them to move through all the different levels, develop them? I think certainly in the people that I speak to, a lot of us are very aware of the way men and women approach opportunities. For example, if there's a job advertisement that has gone out, a woman might look at it and say, I only meet 50% of the requirements, I'm not going to go for it. And a man will say, I meet 50% of the requirements, I'm going to go for it. So there is definitely some learning that you can do to support women to say, be ambitious. You've got nothing to lose. I think that comes through as part of mentorship and part of the general networking. But I think it's also I don't want to put all the pressure on the women. We all know these facts. We all know that women are less likely to go for it. It doesn't mean that they are less capable. So, yes, women can support other women, but what are men going to do to make sure that they have diversity in the workplace? Are they actively seeking out young, talented, ambitious women? They don't even have to be young. They could just be talented and ambitious and saying, there's a job coming up. I think you would be really good for it. You think you've only got 50% of the capabilities. I think use that and then you will develop in your promoted role. And so I think it is about everyone coming together on this. So yes, it's both learning and then it's about support from the top as well, so that we can help women move through the ranks.
Thank you. Maheen, again, a question related to mentorship, because we want to pick from where Olivia left. Mentorship plays a huge role in the career. Mentor guides us through the career challenges and they groom us for the future roles. However, women are hesitant to seek the mentors in order to tap the right potential. How do you think women as well as society in general can break out of the psychological barriers of seeking the mentorship? Because women are only maybe 13 to 20% of employees, workforce, and sometimes men, sometimes women, there's a hesitancy in general. How do you think we can break out of that barrier?
I think that's a very interesting question, and I think the responsibility actually lies on the mentors to seek out who they would like to focus on. And really, ideally, what does a good mentor do? A good mentor pushes you out of your own comfort zone, tells you that it's okay to fail and get up again and try again. And most of the time, people just need that support to tell them it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to try and do something differently and it's okay to be out of your comfort zone. I think it is difficult for anyone, male or female, to approach someone senior and say, please mentor me. It's a challenge. Not everyone is approachable and you don't necessarily want to approach on everyone's time. So I think it's the responsibility of senior leadership to take that role on and bring up young people that way, because if we're expecting a role reversal, then I think that will be challenging for young people to do. But I do think that as senior leaders, what is also important is recognize what it is that you can foresee someone accomplishing. Many times we see people who are stuck in certain roles in certain areas, and they become very reluctant to even switch divisions because they're not sure how they will perform. And I think, for example, if you see someone in HR, and there are women in organizations, except they're very marginalized in certain areas. So HR, you will find a lot of women. Marketing, you'll find a lot of women. Communications, PR, you'll find a lot of women. But I think great communicators also make great salespeople. But they are very reluctant to take that jump. And sometimes all they need is a bit of encouragement saying, you have the ability to do this, try this out. And I think it's on senior leadership to recognize those skill sets and bring them forward. Support roles, the kind of skill sets they can develop, and how those can transition into revenue generation models, because that's ultimately what the private sector is looking for when they look at leadership and progression.
Thank you. Coming back to entrepreneurship, these are challenging times right now. The world is passing through a different stage right now. The cost of doing business has increased, and generally supply chain is pretty constrained. Do you think, given these recent circumstances and trends, is it a good time for the women entrepreneurs to tap on the businesses and entrepreneurship activities?
I think strategic minds look for opportunities and challenges, right? And yes, COVID, a global challenge out of it, but in it were opportunities for acceleration of ways and areas where there were preconceived notions, like whether it was the notion of the workspace or the work from home environment, or whether you look at how now the comfort of technology has become so much more widespread. So, and that is what companies who are looking for opportunities and challenges leverage, right? So, just to give you an example, one of my managers she was on a bed rest, and because there is a work from home that just happened, she's and team member in this environment as well. So when we look at, we had our wellness programs, we had introduced apps which are actually developed, led by females in the space of having access to primary and secondary healthcare questions. Or we had a fitness platform that was again led by a female. So there is definitely, you have to look for the opportunities and make them work for you. And the challenges can become opportunities if you look at them in that way.
Thank you. Sir, my next question is towards you. You have been associated with the companies, as I said earlier, who are champions in inclusion. And you have been part of the management where those decisions were made and those policies were introduced within the companies. We would like to know the vision behind the drive and how the future outlook was targeted or aimed when you were making those policies.
I think good companies in Pakistan, first of all, view gender diversity as something they need to do to be a good corporate citizen. So they have to do it to be acceptable in certain, whether it be with foreign investors or whatever it may be. The other thing is that obviously these companies see an advantage in that as well. So there's a soft advantage when they portray their companies to different stakeholders externally, including, especially ESG is a very big thing for foreign shareholders. So if you're a listed company, these things make a difference. The other thing is a direct advantage. So what I've noticed in my interaction, so women are more diligent in their work, they are more productive, they come with a different perspective. So if you're sitting down to having a problem-solving session, they'll come up with a different perspective. So all of these things make a difference, I think, both directly and from the image of the company as well, and obviously being a good corporate citizen as well.
Thank you. Olivia, Governments around the world and developing agencies have been very keen to promote gender diversity and equality. However, the participation by women has not picked up the pace of the policies. Women lag behind in career and entrepreneurship activities. What more could be done? Because you work with government agencies, you would have insight into the loopholes. We would want to know what more could be done at the government level in order to close this gap.
Yeah, so when I was preparing for this evening, I had a quick think back to all the different things I've done. And back in 2010, I worked on a project all about women on boards with the Department for Business. And we looked at what can we do to help support, get more women on boards. Unlike the SECP, we didn't think we could legislate for this, but what we could do is set out all the evidence, which was that in the previous financial crash, those companies that were diverse, had more diverse boards, they weathered the storms better. And so we decided to go with the approach of sort of strong encouragement. And we've gone with the approach of publishing the gender pay gap between on companies. And we feel there's so much that government can do in terms of strong encouragement, but then what works in partnership is society as well, so it is the businesses as well. What are they doing? And I think, sorry. And that's businesses to make decisions that will financially benefit themselves, which I think we've all spoken about. And some of the people that I met in the course of my time here has included, MG Apparel, who employs more women than men. I had a meeting with Nestle to talk about climate change. I walked into the boardroom and there were only women around the board. Now, it wasn't the full board, but this wasn't a conversation about women in the workforce. This was a conversation about climate. This is not something, and it just so happened that everyone who had something relevant to say happened to be a woman. That was the first time that had happened to me in my life. I'm not just talking about in Pakistan, I mean in my life. So this was a very good moment, and I'm so pleased it was here in Pakistan. And I met with another man who, one of his talented employees came up to him and said, "Look, I'm really sorry, I've had a child, I can't do this anymore, and I'm going to have to resign." And he said, but you're brilliant, and I want to keep you, what can I do? And he set up a daycare centre. And it's not just the women who are bringing the children, the men are also bringing in the children. And so I think when you set up systems like that, it is not, yes, it will benefit women and it will benefit the bottom line, but it will also benefit men. And I think that is really important as well, to get everything to work.
Dr. Zilaf, why do you think women entrepreneur, mostly like a boutique, salon, or maybe a bakery, they do not target more value-added sectors like textile and IT? Is there a fear factor or lack of access which is stopping their progress?
I think it is, there's barriers to entry which are based on cultural biases, and that is what we have to work towards, and it is happening. So when there is when it's about instilling the confidence, and you have multiple examples now where it's not just about women doing what comes because with the customers are women, and it makes sense for women to have better opportunities to be doing so. But once they have the confidence and the opportunity, we are seeing from air hostesses to female pilots, we are seeing, just had the first support as a woman, we are seeing women, Kareem and So it's the combination of getting the confidence, to the right kind of education, mentorship, environment, and then seeing examples of this happening. And then the needle starts moving. If I give you my own example, like we were talking about, yes, exactly, women are overrepresented in some functions. But I have an area sales manager, a woman in sales in Sakkar. So, this becomes. I have women. Yes, they are few and far between. To become examples, I have women in quality. Yes, we need to be doing much more to get to the kind of numbers that would, but because the overall effect, so it's not just about gender diversity. It is about how inclusion, which brings about, like what Rahman was talking about, which is adds to what you want in your business results. There are different problem-solving ways. There are different skills that are brought in, so it is about. It's not just about being a man or a woman. It is about the society being inclusive so that everybody benefits. I mean, talking about mentor, my father is trying to be able to identify, yes, a potential can be developed in different kinds of ways and means, yet giving me the space and empowerment to make the choices and then also have the opportunities to be deciding what is going to give you more fulfillment and happiness in the long run. So it's not just about. So there are men have to be looking at it, and they do. Like I just gave you an example. So if there is some kind of somewhat working towards a shift, we should all take ownership of it and keep working towards the right direction.
Thank you. Maheen, while there have been many positive changes in the work environment, and you have in your job at Infrazamin have been closely working with entrepreneurs too, because I think there have been a lot of new initiatives by Infrazamin. So any new patterns or behaviors that you have noticed that have emerged in the societies which are supportive of working women and women entrepreneurs? We'd like you to share those.
Well, first of all, I think it's such a great time actually to be a woman, to be very honest, because look at all the attention you get in March, right? But beyond that, if you're trying to raise funds as an entrepreneur, then there's two things that really help right now. One is if you're doing something in green, and the second is if you're a woman. And that's just the reality of the way people are changing their investing behavior, very simply. And this is huge internationally. In fact, there are funds who are so heavily focused on climate and the gender issues that they are looking for those projects to support. And I think in Pakistan right now, I would say it's still early days, but at least the conversation is now far more intense than it was, for example, 20 years ago when I started working. And at least now the ideas which Sadia has put forward, some of those notions of whose wife is this, whose daughter is this, are now slowly being broken. It will take time because I think our cultural barriers are immense, but those are the kind of changes that we need to see. And I think a lot of the control mechanisms that are in place, whether they are in the corporate sector, kind of equality of access is what we are all working towards. And it's not just access to finance, it's access to healthcare, it's access to education, it's access to clean water. those are the challenges that we are dealing with as a society. But at least that conversation is now happening, and the policy is supporting it. I remember when this woman on boards pushed for that one directorship. I think it was the one most controversial change in the corporate governance landscape that drew the most criticism. But I think, as Sadia pointed out, several years later, it is showing to have a positive benefit. And so you need more of that affirmative action. When I was on the PICG board with Dr. Shamshad, we said PICG as the epitome of corporate governance in the country must have much higher representation of women on the board than just one. So we actually ended up mandating PICG to have 33% of its directors as women, and I think that's implemented now. So I think in this country, unfortunately, it's carrot and stick. So you offer the carrot first. If it doesn't work, you go after them with a stick. And that's really how, unfortunately, change will come. I think, though, that we are talking about a subsector. We're talking about the corporate sector, and we're talking about, the elite of this country. The reality is we have 25 million children out of school. Half of those are girls. In another 10 years, 12 years, they will get married, they will be mothers. There is a huge amount of work that is needed, and it's not the NGO sector or the private sector that can fulfill it. So let's not absolve the government also of its responsibility towards education and healthcare for all of them. And as a private sector, we're happy to work with government to help achieve this. But ultimately, it is going to be, in my view, a combination of carrot and stick policies that is going to get us up that ladder.
Thank you. Sir, with your career and exposure and experience, you must have learned immense amount of knowledge. As a mentor to a lot of us over here, I would like you to share some thoughts how we can rise and how we can handle the challenges of the today's environment, work environment.
Well, I think a couple of things I want to mention before that is how corporates can encourage gender diversity. And I think, and it partly will answer your question as well, that the tone starts at the top. So, for example, Sadia has been a director in one of the companies I led in Engro, and every board meeting she used to rap on the knuckles, what are you doing about this, what are you doing about this? So obviously that helps. Then as top management, I think you need to send a message down all the way. Gender diversity or equal, whatever way you want to call it, is here to stay. And you need to reinforce that message through your communications, town halls, etc. Then you need to set some targets as well, that, what percentage, it may sound a bit as well, that we set targets that this many percentage of female workforce we need in the company. And then we sit with it. I mean, if there were, I'll give you an example. I worked mostly in large-scale manufacturing concerns where women in HR or finance or whatever, it's more difficult to send them to a remote location in a field job and make sure they go graduate training engineers, etc. So we needed to. So for example, we created an infrastructure where, for example, there were dorms for men, but we gave them a house, a bungalow where there were 4 or 5 bedrooms, where we recruited a batch of 4 or 5 so they feel comfortable. In the first year, we practically lost everyone in 6 months because the parents didn't allow them to be there, someone got married or whatever. But the question was, we persisted. We kept on doing it year after year after year. And that's how we managed to get people in non-traditional roles in the corporate sector as well. The other thing we need to do is to train in new skill sets. So one of the companies I'm associated with as a board member is K Electric, and they've started what they call a Roshni Baji program, where they've recruited about 100 from a particular locality, and what we call customer service, whether it be safety lessons or some issue with the metering or whatever. So these are for example, in Engro, when we did the thermites, we sort of recruited and trained women truck drivers as well. So these are the type of things which we need to do, encourage them. And I think comes mainly if you are in an office job, but in those locations where it's so difficult to go there, I think that's the encouragement we need at a policy level, infrastructure level, to make it succeed as such. Thank you.
Thank you. My last question is from Olivia. What is the best advice you received from your mentor that helped you to reach where you are today?
Gosh, it's a really good question. I'm just trying to think what it was. I think it's an ongoing process, right? So it isn't necessarily have one meeting with a mentor and that's it. You're set for life. It is definitely it's an iterative event, and I think one of the ones that sort of stuck with me is possibly. I was invited to a very important meeting and I walked in. I was like, oh, thanks for inviting me. So glad to be here. I've got lots of expertise and I want to share it with everyone. And afterwards she said, great that you're enthusiastic. But also you don't need to thank for inviting you to a meeting. As you say, you have the expertise. You have, and there is a reason why you have been invited. And it's not to fill a quota. They want to hear from you. And so just be comfortable in that knowledge. Just be comfortable that you do have expertise. And sometimes you might get things wrong, but that's fine too. So I think it's something about just being more secure in yourself. And I know it's so much easier to say than to do, but I think it is very helpful. I have one who consistently adds, I think, about 10 years to her age, because people always ask her, how old are you? How old are you? And she's like, and I think she was about 26 when she would say, I'm 34. And she just lied. But internally, she's like, you know what, I am just as good as a 34-year-old, and so I'm going to internalize that. Pretend I'm 34-year-old, and by the time she's 34, obviously she's going to be, 46. And a CEO, inside. And so I think there's definitely something to be said about finding the route to something that will just make you more of who you are. Because as soon as you're comfortable, go further.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions. If there are any questions, please introduce yourself and ask a question.
If you can see the hands raised, maybe I'll pass on the... I can't see.
My name is Khalid Zaman Khan. Maheen rightly said this is the great time for the female, because a lot of function about female everywhere is happening. I think we talked about the training, gender sensitivity training for the male colleague, but what I have observed in my 20 years career, even with multinational, is a need to have a training for the female as well. The workplace, female compared to the male. This observation, probably you endorse it or not, but this is my personal experience as a HR head myself. I have seen both in the multinational as well as in the local sector as well.
Okay. I think, do women give other women a hard time? I think is the question. And so let's be honest. Sometimes probably yes, but I think they give everyone a hard time, not necessarily just other women. And I think it also comes from a little bit of reflection that it is not just solely a woman's responsibility to bring other women up. One, there's just not enough of us. You can see from the get to the the really senior leadership, it really thins out. So there's not enough women to pull every woman up. And I think also as women, you are not also, as women leaders, you're not just the pure bastion of female empowerment. The responsibility rests with all of us. It's like asking the to help the poor. Right. So we have to think a little bit beyond that. And if there is training that you're in HR, so please do take that initiative. If there is something that women leaders can benefit with others, let's hear it. Would be happy to with you on that. But I think the reality is that bringing women forward is everyone's responsibility, society's responsibility. And I think women take a step forward, it is the organization.
Hello, hi everyone. So I wanted to ask about unconscious biases that we as a society, not just in the corporate sector, have. For example, right now, even Olivia said that, we, even as women, we have to thank people to be a part of a meeting. This is as women, our unconscious bias saying that, okay, maybe I don't belong here. And so given that opportunity, I have to thank people. Or right now, someone here said that women give a tough time to women, right? It's not always true, but somewhere it's our unconscious bias talking. So over the years, do you think, have we evolved enough to sort of, have we come a long way in some way? Have we worked towards it? And if yes, then what has worked to curb this unconscious bias? Are those sensitization trainings for both men and women? Or what is it that we can collectively work towards to, sort of minimize it, if not eradicate it completely? Because I understand it's a long way that we have to go.
Actually, you are absolutely right, I think, that it is unconscious biases. And your question was whether it would be, what is it that works, what is it that doesn't work? And I think it was mentioned about the carrot and stick. It has to come from both the angles, whether it is regulations, whether it is law, whether it is mandates, whether it is business opportunity, because we know that everywhere funding is available if you have, if you can show diversity. You can show good KPIs towards sustainability. So that works, but at the same time, I don't think that it's only the regulation and what can be in the law. Understanding the spirit behind, so it's not just the policy, but having flexibility, but going by the spirit of what it is meant for, having a realization of that, which comes with seeing role models, which comes with seeing what results that you get, which comes with seeing what you learn at work and how you apply it at home, is the way for the society to be progressing. So yes, trainings certainly help, and that's what I say about the stick element also has to be there, whether it is mandatory trainings, whether it is, but at the same time, keeping in view that just by making a policy or a law, it's not going to happen. You have to create the environment, the mindset, and have examples where you see it work that makes changes in the very, very long run. And by the way, if yes, being invited to a meeting, there should be no thank you for, because it's
I was very young.
It's absolutely a meeting. I mean, if I'm on the board of PBC, yes, very nice. I'm a woman board member, but just because I'm a woman, that's not why I'm on the board. So I feel I'm there because I'm a woman only. It takes away from, if I feel like being it is a nice, courteous thing to say thank you. That also should not be perceived as my weakness. So the strength comes from within you in having the confidence and knowing what your strength is and showing it at the right times for the right reasons. So that is how which is good for the whole society. We have cultural sensitivities, we should respect them, but that should not stop us from being part of getting to the growth in all sectors of society, which is what every household needs, which is what every community needs, which is what the whole country needs. So I think the biases need to be addressed, but I think at the same time, recognizing that support systems are needed for women also to be doing what they are doing. That comes from women realizing that use the support systems, because you could be to places where you are adding much more value. So I think that's what I would say to that.
I think, okay. So that's the we have for the panel discussion today, and I'd like to say thank you for my awesome panel speakers to give the answers which have added value to our work life as well as our entrepreneurship activities. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was indeed a wonderful session. I am sure we could appreciate it a bit more with our applause. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Mr. Abdur Rahman Varaish, the President of CFA Society, Pakistan. He has more than taxation government of Punjab, management, investment management and research with leading asset management companies, risk management, Government of Punjab, Civil Service, Federal Board of Revenue and teaching. I would now request Mr. Abdur Rahman Varaish, the President of CFA Society, Pakistan, to please come up on the stage for his closing remarks.
Ms. Sadia Khan, Commissioner, SCCP, our guest of honor, and the esteemed panelists, Ms. Olivia, Mr. Rohail, respected members of the CFT, thank you very much for making a busy schedule to attend today's event. The Path to Environment series is one of the key initiatives of CFA Society of Pakistan, and it's an essential and one of the most important components of our mission. CFA Society Pakistan strives to promote professional excellence in the financial industry, strives to work for development of financial markets and greater financial inclusion, and women empowerment, women entrepreneurship, and gender diversity are high on the agenda of CFA Society. Ladies and gentlemen, CFA Society believes that Pakistan is at a crossroads. If it has to move ahead and compete with the rest of the world, then it has to give the confidence and the opportunities to its women to rise and meet their potential. They should have the same opportunities, they should have the same confidence as men to unlock their potential, to dream big, and to do whatever it takes to achieve those dreams. This event is also an initiative to create awareness about the women who have already done it, who are our role models, who have already become leaders in different walks of society, in the public as well as private sectors. The idea is to see them talking, sharing their insights, their experiences, their thoughts, and to be inspired and motivated. And hopefully the rest of us can also see big dreams and set high goals and do our best to achieve our potential. Thank you very much once again to our esteemed guest of honor and to the accomplished panelists for some of what we heard and some solid ideas and insights that you shared with us. And indeed, there's no disagreeing that if more women participate in workforce of this country, and our country would prosper much faster and much better. And it was rightly said, ultimately it is about the mindset. There are embedded biases in the subconscious of our society, and it will take time to break those barriers. But the good thing is that women empowerment is no longer just the right thing to do. It is a reality in front of us. There are so many high-powered, successful women who shared their stories and ideas with us and inspired us today. So thank you very much to all of you. And many thanks to Ms. Roxana Narejo and Mr. Sarwat Ahsan, who took the lead and did the hard work to put this event together. And finally, thanks a lot to the British Deputy High Commission for their collaboration and for their support. And considering that women empowerment is like a common agenda and a common ground for the British Deputy High Commission and CFA Society, we look forward to many more collaborations like this one. Thank you very much. They'll be receiving awards from you guys.
Ms. Martin, is there?
Thank you so much.
Ms. Sadia?
Please stay on the stage. We need to have pictures.
Dr. Zila?
My pleasure. Thank you for your participation.
Miss Olivia? Miss Olivia?
Thank you very much.
Miss Maheen Rahman? Mr. Rohail Mohammed?
And last but not the least, my request to Humaira Shakil, who is the moderator, sorry, MC, to please, you can give it to us.
Thank you so much. Well done. All the questions.